Morning, it's 10 a.m. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. It's me, Frank Pereira. Let's begin with the 10 a.m. headlines. Prime Minister Modi holds bilateral talks with his Malaysian counterpart to two countries to deepen security and defence cooperation. In address to Indian diaspora on Sunday, Modi says terror and religion must be de-linked. Padeshis to launch fresh month-long protests in Nepal against new constitution, called for agitation after 4 protesters killed in police firing. Heavy rains predicted in southern Tamil Nadu in the next 48 hours. Schools and colleges shut, power and water supply affected in several places. Belgium on terror alert. Police mount anti-terror raids, arrest 16 people, but main Paris attack suspect Salah Abdeslam still on the run. And nearly 100 people killed in the deadliest disaster to strike Myanmar's jade industry. Travelling miners trapped under waste debris following landslides. Well, our top focus is Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Malaysia. On the third day of his visit today, he held bilateral talks with his Malaysian counterpart Najib Razak. The two discussed bilateral ties. Prime Minister Modi said India and Malaysia will deepen security and defence cooperation. Modi also complimented his Malaysian counterpart for combating extremism and radicalization and highlighting the real values of Islam. Modi will also attend the program for the inauguration of Torana Gate and also interact with corporate Malaysia. Torana Gate is a gift from India to mark the launch of Kuala Lumpur's Little India project as a symbol of friendship between the two countries. Later, Prime Minister Modi will depart for Singapore. On Sunday, Prime Minister Modi addressed the Indian diaspora and highlighted India's diversity as its strength. He also appealed to nations across the world to unite to defeat terror.
The recent spate of attack in different countries, not to mention the ceaseless terrorist attempts against India and Afghanistan, are a reminder of the global nature of this threat. Mr. Prime Minister, you have provided leadership in combating extremism and radicalization, rejected any link between terrorism and religion, and in highlighting the real values of Islam.
India, we share a lot of common position with respect to counter-terrorism. We will work closely together to defeat violent extremism and terrorism. And in the light of the climate change conference in Paris, we will also work closely together to try to make a deal happen, but a deal which is fair for both the developing world as well as for the advanced economies.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi underlining India's diversity as he addressed the diaspora in Kuala Lumpur.
India is not confined to its territory. India also exists in every Indian. In every part of the world, India is in you.
Modi ensuring that criticism coming his way from opposition parties for ignoring past contributions of their leaders is laid to rest as he counted India's achievements since independence.
India, the land of your heritage, has remarkable achievements since independence.
In the backdrop of various terror attacks across the globe, Modi used the stage to appeal to all nations to de-link terror and religion. He said terrorism is the biggest threat to the world and it knows no boundaries.
We have to de-link religion from terror. The only distinction is between those who believe in humanity and those who do not.
In his 45-minute speech at the Malaysia International Exhibition and Convention Centre, Modi pushed for enhanced intelligence cooperation among nations.
And we have to make sure that internet does not become a recruiting ground. I said it before and I will say it here. The world must come together to combat the biggest challenge of our times. We can strengthen intelligence cooperation. We can use military force. We can make the international legal system for cooperation stronger. But when I say that the world must come together, it is not just about more security cooperation. It is also means ensuring that no country uses or promotes terrorism.
Modi also threw the spotlight on opportunities in India as he spoke about the enabling climate that his government is trying to create. He said the wheels of change have begun to move.
I know you feel proud of it. We are running at 7.5% per year, but will grow even faster in the coming years. Every major global institutions has placed its bets on India growing strongly. This is at a time when the rest of the world, including parts of this region, is experiencing a slowdown.
Modi announced a grant of $1 million to the India Students Trust Fund as financial assistance to Malay Indian students and the naming of India's cultural centre in Kuala Lumpur after Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. He said a bust of Mahatma Gandhi would be installed at the Gandhi Memorial Hall in Kuala Lumpur, and India would work with the Malaysian government to set up a war memorial for Indian soldiers at the site of the Battle of Kampar in Parik in Malaysia. Akhilesh Suman's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Our correspondent Akhilesh Suman now joins us live from Malaysia. Akhilesh, as Prime Minister Modi held bilateral talks with his Malaysian counterpart earlier today, what was on the agenda as far as those talks were concerned, and what was the outcome at the end?
Okay, just a few minutes back, Frank, the bilateral talks between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Prime Minister of Malaysia is over, and I am standing before the Prime Minister office. You can see behind me the beautiful office of Malaysian Prime Minister. But what was the main agenda? The main agenda was the defense ties between the two countries, the joint defense cooperation, the joint defense production, and also there has been MOU signed on the cultural exchange between the two countries, and also performance monitoring system and cyber security. So you can understand that the belief system, the confidence between one another has increased, and that is why they are saying that it is enhanced strategic cooperation between the two countries. And given the fact that India diaspora is in a big number in Malaysia, just after USA, and many of the Indians are doing great jobs, many Indian companies are here working, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi is, I think, that very impressed with the infrastructure development in this country, and that is why he wants Malaysian companies to come into India and create an infrastructure like roads, like flyovers, like even buildings. So it was a very good meeting between the two Prime Ministers, and Prime Minister of Malaysia also told about the cultural similarity between the two countries, the diversity between the two countries, and both of them talked about diversity must be maintained so that the countries can live peacefully. And as far as the question of terrorism was concerned, both were on the same page that the movement of moderates should be allowed. That means the shunning away the radical Islam and going into the moderate Islam that increases the whole cooperation between the two religions, and extremist violence should be stopped. So I think it was both a win-win situation as far as political bonhomie was concerned, as far as the defense cooperation is concerned, and also the economic and trade cooperation. Frank.
All right, Akhilesh Suman, we'll have to leave to that. Thank you so much for joining us there with those details from Malaysia. Let's bring you the latest now from Europe. Belgian police has mounted anti-terror raids in the country amidst an imminent terror threat. They have made 16 arrests so far, but the main suspect, Salah Abdeslam, is not among them. Raids come as the Belgian Prime Minister Charles Michel announced another day of lockdown in the country for fear of a new Paris-style mass attack.
Salah Abdeslam, the only suspect of Paris attack who is known to have survived, is still on the run. He is not among those 16 arrested by the Belgian police in anti-terror raids. A combing operation is underway in Belgium for the suspect. Extra troops have been deployed on the ground.
Until now, no firearms or explosives were found. Salah Abdeslam is not among the persons arrested during the searches.
Belgium is on the highest terror alert. The capital has been locked down. Metro stations, schools and universities remain closed. Belgian Prime Minister Charles Michel has announced a serious and imminent threat of coordinated Paris-style multiple attacks in the country. They have decided to continue with the lockdown after a meeting of security chiefs on Sunday.
L'organe qui analyse la menace, l'OCAM, a confirmé dans le courant de la soirée un niveau 4 sur une échelle de 1 à 4 pour ce qui concerne la région de Bruxelles. Il s'agit donc du plus haut niveau de menace. Cela signifie...
Je suis totalement inquiet parce que ça fait quand même 20 ans que j'habite à Bruxelles et j'ai jamais eu ça, marcher dans la rue. On m'a arrêté tantôt pour me dire que ça serait bien de ne pas marcher dans la rue maintenant, aujourd'hui, quoi. Donc,
c'est un climat d'insécurité qui malheureusement, à mon avis, n'est pas prêt de s'arrêter. Malheureusement.
Belgium has been at the heart of investigations into the Paris attacks after links to Brussels emerged. Reports suggest that Salah Abdeslam slipped back home to Brussels from Paris shortly after the attacks. Amidst rising tensions, British Prime Minister David Cameron will meet French President François Hollande in Paris on Monday. They will discuss counter-terror cooperations and fight against IS in the wake of horrific Paris attacks. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha Television.
Meanwhile, protesters in Nepal have decided to launch a fresh month-long protest in the Terai region from today to press for more rights and representation in the newly promulgated constitution. The decision was made in the meetings by Nepal's Madhesh-based parties and ethnic groups. The call for fresh protests comes after 4 Indian-origin Madheshis were shot dead by Nepal police for blocking a key highway in Terai. So far, more than 40 people have died during the 3-month-long agitation in southern Nepal. India has expressed distress at the loss of lives and has called for a political solution to the problem. Meanwhile, Home Minister Rajnath Singh, who is on a 6-day visit to China, will visit the Command and Control Center in Shanghai today. On Sunday, the Home Minister toured a digital police station in China's financial hub, Shanghai. He was briefed by officials on the best practices and audiovisual monitoring of crime. He also addressed the Indian community in Shanghai. In his interaction, Rajnath Singh appreciated the role of the Indian community in fostering good economic relations with China and called on them to contribute to Make in India and Smart Cities campaign of the government. Maintaining focus on security cooperation with China, the Home Minister had spent the last 3 days in Beijing meeting Premier Li Keqiang and Interior Security officials Gao Shengkun and Chinese Security Czar Meng Jianzhu. He is the first Indian Home Minister to visit China in a decade. Well, ahead of the winter session of Parliament, Joint Parliamentary Committee will meet today to examine the Land Acquisition Bill. The meet is called upon in an attempt to come out with a consensus on 3 of the 14 contentious clauses on which there has been no unanimity yet. Committee members from opposition parties such as the Congress, Trinamool Congress and the left as well as NDA ally Shiv Sena are yet to concede to the Modi government's stand on these 3 clauses. The 30-member JPC chaired by BJP's SS Ahluwalia is expected to submit its report in the first week of the session. The government is hoping to pass through its version of the bill through the legislative route instead. Well, our correspondent Sham Sundar joins us on the phone line with more. Well, Sham, as far as the JPC is concerned, it's a crucial meet ahead of the winter session of Parliament. Of course, there are many talks that this winter session could also be a logjam, but is there any kind of a consensus that we can see being reached as far as the land acquisition bill is concerned?
Well, as far as consensus is concerned, we have learned from our sources that government is ready to drop 2 contentious issues, that is consent. The social impact assessment. Earlier, government wanted to make changes in these 2 clauses, but the government wants a few more changes. Like there is a provision in 2013 Act that if land is acquired from a farmer and it is not utilized for 5 years, then it will revert back to the original owner. So government says that there are projects like irrigation and power projects and road projects which cannot be completed in 5 years. So government want changes in that clause. And apart from that, government also want to change another clause that in 2013 Act there is a provision that to remove difficulties, the government can issue an executive order, and for that deadline is December 2015, 1st December 2015, that deadline ends. So government wants to increase that deadline for five more years. And apart from that, there is a provision that if a land is acquired 5 years before 2013 Act was implemented and the compensation is not awarded, in that case also the land will be reverted back to the original owner. So these are the three crucial issues which will be discussed today in the JPC, and more or less parties have stated position, but government is hoping that because state governments are also facing some problem in development projects, so there may be some reconsideration from at least regional parties, if not the left and Congress. So government is still hopeful, but it is very, very difficult and challenging task for the government. Of course, JPC is supposed to give its report in the first week of the winter session of the parliament.
Indeed. All right, Shyam Sundar, we'll have to leave to that. Thank you so much for joining us there with all those details. It's time now for a short break. Much more lined up for you on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Today we will bring to you the judgment of the Supreme Court on disqualification of convicted members of state legislature and parliament.
Somebody is to be disqualified, the law has to come into the picture, whether people know it or they don't.
Now there should be a concerted effort in the Supreme Court to ensure that the judgment is complied with, otherwise it's just sound and fury signifying nothing.
Watch Law of the Land on Rajya Sabha television. Get live Rajya Sabha session. News, views, reports and analysis you can trust on social media. Subscribe, follow, like Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, India is objecting to US Secretary of State John Kerry, terming it as a challenge at the upcoming Paris climate meet. Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar said that the remarks are not only unwarranted but far from the truth. In an interview to Rajya Sabha television, Javadekar told senior journalist M.K. Venu that India had always tried to be a part of the solution and has made active efforts to forge a consensus on the global stage to fight climate change.
Ahead of the Paris Climate Conference, India is hotly contesting remarks by the US Secretary of State John Kerry that its government is reluctant to accept a bigger role in addressing global warming. In an interview to Rajya Sabha TV, Prakash Javadekar said that on the contrary, India has not only emerged as a key player on climate change, but has also been globally appreciated for its initiatives.
आज भारत को एक प्रमुख ताकत के रूप में यानी पेरिस समझौता ठीक हो, इसके लिए एक प्रमुख भागीदार के रूप में देखा जाता है, न कि नकारात्मक। अमेरिका के विदेश मंत्री ने अभी बयान दिया कि भारत शायद समस्या हो सकता है, तो ये अनावश्यक था।
Calling the present situation a result of emissions that have taken place over a period of 150 years, the Union Minister says that despite the fact that India is not part of the problem, it is sparing no efforts to be a catalyst in finding a solution.
We are saying that though we are not part of the problem, we want to be part of solution, and therefore we are networking all developing world and even making dialogue with all developed world, so that we arrive at an amicable solution in Paris.
The Paris Climate Conference is slated to take place from 30th of November to 11th of December. The meeting will aim to achieve a legally binding and universal agreement on climate with an overall objective of keeping global warming below 2 degrees Celsius. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, you can watch the entire interview with the Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar right here on Rajya Sabha television later tonight. Moving on now, after pulses, oil and onions, sugar could end up losing its sweetness next. Industry body ASSOCHAM claims that the prices could rise from early next year as production targets are expected to fall. This, it says, indicates that farmers are shifting to other crops amid rising cane arrears.
The deficient monsoon is almost certain to force a sugar shortage now. Output is expected to dip to 27 million tons in 2015-16, 5% lower than 28.31 million tons produced in 2014-15. Sugarcane production was estimated at 28 million tons in July. Industry body ASSOCHAM estimates that an El Nino impact could adversely affect cane production next year as well. Not only that, given the present aggressive sugar export strategy, the declining production is expected to put pressure on prices from 2016.
Farmers are not getting their due on a regular basis, and therefore the farmers are increasingly switching over to other cash crops rather than the sugarcane. And that will become a worrying factor over a period of time, in another few months' time.
Experts want the government to take into account domestic needs and availability to ensure that current low prices don't go the way pulses and onion have.
Sugar prices do not determine the prices of sugarcane alone. There is molasses, there is press mud, there's bagasse. Bagasse, you have electricity these days, you have paper, molasses, you have liquor.
India is already facing a huge shortage of vegetable oil and pulses. Now, with sugar also joining in, the recurring failure of monsoon is expected to add to the overall inflationary pressure. This is Kriti Mishra's report for Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, very heavy rainfall has been predicted by the Met Department at various places in southern parts of Tamil Nadu in the next 48 hours. Chennai and various other districts of Tamil Nadu, including Tiruvallur, Kanchipuram, Tiruvarur and Vellore, have declared a rain holiday for schools and colleges today. Power, drinking and water supply to several villages have been affected. State business and trade has been hit badly due to incessant rains in the past weeks. The toll in rain-related incidents has last month risen to 122, with the death of a 27-year-old man. Here's a look at what else to expect to make news in day ahead. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley will chair the quarterly review meeting of the chairman and managing directors of public sector banks and financial institutions. The meet is likely to discuss issues like bad loans and interest rate reduction in light of the Reserve Bank of India lowering its policy rate in September. The Supreme Court will hear Karnataka government's plea against Jayalalitha's acquittal by the High Court in the disproportionate assets case. The state government has contended that Karnataka High Court had undervalued properties owned by the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister and committed a mathematical error while calculating her income. Jayalalitha was sentenced to 4 years in jail by a trial court, but she was later acquitted by the High Court. Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi will meet farmers in Saharanpur district of Uttar Pradesh today. He will undertake a 6-kilometer long Padayatra and hold 2 chowpals and a Kisan Panchayat during his day-long visit. A major payment issue is grappling the district, with the sugarcane farmers demanding a higher price for their produce. Former media tycoon Peter Mukherjee's CBI custody in the Sheena Bora murder case will end today. Peter was arrested by the CBI on the 19th of November and was charged with murder and criminal conspiracy in the case. The CBI had said that Peter had played an active role in the killing and was part of the conspiracy. Moving on to some international news now. At least 100 people have been killed in a massive landslide in a remote mining area in northern Myanmar. Rescue teams continue to find bodies in what is being called the deadliest disaster to strike the country's jade industry. Those killed were thought to have been mainly travelling miners who scratch a living by scavenging through mountains of waste rubble. The rubble is dumped by mining firms who are the centre of a secretive multi-billion-dollar jade industry in war-torn Kachin state. The massive landslide crushed dozens of flimsy shanty huts clustered on the barren landscape, home to an unknown number of people. Rescue operations continue with the Myanmar Red Cross, Army, police and local community groups, but officials say that they have little hope of pulling people alive from the rubble. Meanwhile, a powerful 6.2 magnitude earthquake shook the Pakistani capital of Islamabad and northwest areas of the country, though there were no reports of casualties. The magnitude was recorded at 6.2 on the Richter scale by Pakistan Meteorological Department, while the US Geological Survey puts it at 5.9. The epicenter of the quake was 86 kilometers deep and located somewhere in the border area of Afghanistan and Tajikistan. The tremors also rocked Peshawar, Manshera, Shangla, Swat, Naushera, Dirbala and adjoining areas. Panic-gripped people came out of their houses to take shelter in open, especially in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province where strong tremors were felt. According to local media, several houses were damaged in the Swat Valley. There were no reports of casualties so far. The quake was felt in areas in Afghanistan and India. Well, let's take a look now at the other international news in World Wrap. Centre-right opposition candidate Mauricio Macri has won the presidential election runoff in Argentina. Early reports suggest that Macri has won 54% votes, while his centre-left rival Daniel Scioli's party just won 46% of the votes. In the first round of voting early in October, Macri had lost to Scioli by 36.7% to 34.5%, but neither candidate managed to win the vote outright, forcing a runoff. China once again defended its construction on the disputed islands in the South China Sea, reiterating that they do not intend to militarize the area. Chinese Vice Foreign Minister said this during the sidelines of the annual ASEAN summit in Kuala Lumpur. They also accused the US of provocations by sending a Navy ship in the area during last month. In the latest series of attacks in Israel, a woman was stabbed to death in West Bank by a Palestinian. The attacker was shot dead. Meanwhile, police officials said that two other Palestinian attackers were killed in separate incidents. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu urged people to remain alert in the face of terrorism by individuals. Attempts to recover the remaining bodies of those who died in a helicopter crash in New Zealand have been postponed till Wednesday due to bad weather. Bodies of only 7 victims have been recovered so far. The aircraft had crashed in a crevasse on the glacier on New Zealand's South Island early on Saturday. The cause of the crash is under investigation. A state of emergency has been declared in Crimea after transmission towers in Ukraine's Kherson region were blown up, causing a blackout. Nearly 1.9 million people have been left partly or fully without electricity. The Regional Energy Ministry has formed an emergency response center to deal with the power cut. Moving on to some sports news now, India demolished arch rivals Pakistan 6-2 to clinch the 8th Junior Asia Cup title. India started the match on an aggressive note and got an early goal through Harmanpreet Singh's penalty corner. He then went on to score 2 more to complete his hat-trick as India led 3-1 at the half-time. Indian team continued the momentum after the break, adding 3 more goals in the second half. Harmanpreet scored his 4th goal of the match to become the highest scorer in the tournament with 15 goals. Manpreet Singh Jr. and Arman Qureshi scored a goal each to complete the rout. Here's a look at the other sports action in Sports Beat. Well, the Indian men's senior hockey team conceded a couple of late goals to go down 1-2 to Australia in the second hockey test at Raipur. India took the lead through Devinder Valmiki, but the Aussies scored 2 goals in 2 minutes to take the match. The visitors now lead the 3-match series 1-0 after the first match ended in a draw. Rohan Bopanna and his Romanian partner Florin Mergea finished runner-up at the ATP World Tour Finals. The 8 seeds lost 4-6, 3-6 to second-seeded team of John Julian Rajya and Horai Takao. This was Bopanna's second runner-up finish at the event after having lost the final in 2012 with Mahesh Bhupati. Novak Djokovic defeated Roger Federer to claim a record fourth straight ATP World Tour Finals title. The world number one continued his superb form to dispatch Federer 6-3, 6-4 in the final. With the win, Djokovic finished the year with 11 titles, including 3 Grand Slams. Bayern Munich battled past Schalke 3-1 to open an 8-point lead at the top of the Bundesliga. Bayern, who are eyeing a record fourth consecutive league title, went ahead on 9 minutes through David Alaba. Javi Martinez and Thomas Müller scored the other 2 goals. This was Bayern's 12th win from 13 league games, and they now have 37 points at the top of the table. That's it on this edition of the Bulletin. Have a good day.